Gowan Books presents Vanessa Paloma talking about her book, The Mountain, the Desert, and the Pomegranate.
Hello, I'm Vanessa Paloma, and my book is called The Mountain, the Desert, and the Pomegranate, Stories from Morocco and Beyond. And it's a book that actually took a while to write because I didn't start writing with the idea of writing a book of short stories. I just had a couple of stories that came out and that I wrote. And then they were sitting on my computer for a while. And it was only later that the idea came to put together a collection of stories. And so I started with those that I already had, and then I added some others to the mix. And so it was interesting to build the process of the book, to see what were the stories that wanted to be told, and what were the stories that I had inside of myself that I wanted to tell. And so they come from different places. And you can probably see that as you're reading the different stories. Some of them are completely from my imagination, and some of them are inspired by events that happened, things that I experienced, or things that I heard about. And so it was an interesting process putting it all together.
How does Morocco come into the experience?
There's a whole set of stories that are about Morocco, and more specifically, some of them have to do with the Jewish community in Morocco. As you might know, I actually live in Morocco. I lived in Tangier for a year, and now I've been living in Casablanca for the last 4 years. And so living within the Jewish community of Morocco, which is a Muslim country that has had a very long history of this living together and this process of growth with all their different ethnicities and religions and cultures that have been here, is something that is very rich for writing. So some of the stories are evoking historical elements from Morocco, like the story of La Mantilla that talks about the Juderia, the Jewish quarter in Tétouan, and the other one, Estrella and her prayers, Estrella's prayers. That one is more or less evoking the wartime, Second World War in Tangier. And then there's the story about the silver coins, and that is in contemporary Casablanca. And Shabbat Shalom, Madame Sulika is in Marrakesh, in the Melach, in the Jewish quarter of Marrakesh. Interestingly enough, in a sense of how contemporary Jewish life touches on ancient Jewish life. How this is one of the things actually that I really love about Morocco, that I feel that we can live today with an active feeling of what it was like 500 years ago maybe. There are still elements that remind us of that, and there are still behaviors that evoke that. And I think that comes through in the story about the Melach of Marrakesh. And then the title story, The Mountain, the Desert, and the Pomegranate, that talks about the Berber Jews in the Atlas Mountains. And that is a completely different Jewish community. So we really touch on different spaces within the Jewish community in Morocco.
How do you see this book between adult and teenage readers?
I think this book can actually have a very wide audience. of adults and younger readers, because you can read it actually at many different levels. Actually, in the Torah, when you study the Torah, you study the Torah at different levels, and it's called the Pardes, the Pshat, Remez, Drash, and Sod, right? Either at the literal level, at the allegorical level, at the metaphoric level, and then at the secret level. And I think that there are elements of that in these stories, because the story itself is, just gives itself to you. It's there, and it has whimsical elements, and it has images that kind of take you to other spaces and other experiences. But one of the other things that I was really conscious about wanting to impregnate the stories with was elements of Jewish mysticism. And even if they weren't specific, and even if they weren't clearly presented as that actually that the reader would be having an experience that would be similar to what the mystics explain and evoke and teach about through the reading of the story, so that the reading of the story itself would allow you to go into those places that Jewish mysticism wants you to go to. And I think that that's really the part of it that really connects to adult readers, that want to have that experience of this living between worlds, or living in the world of reality and touching elements of the world beyond.